Hey everyone, welcome to my channel where I come to get things off my chest, to say my opinions, to comment on things in video form. And for some reason, you've come to listen. So welcome. Thank you for listening. I'm Crispy Kareem, as is stated in the name of the channel. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And go to the description box for my social medias, and if you don't like this video, then tell other people to hate me and hate to watch my videos, because I don't mind. So I'm gonna talk about what's been trending for the last few days or so. I'm pretty sure it's gone out of fashion, but I think I'm gonna comment on it anyway because I've had some stuff on my mind regarding this, and I really want to get it out of my head because it's really taking up a lot of headspace and I need to get this out. So we're gonna talk about the SoniaxFyza internalized racism scandal. Oh my god. And this time it's gonna be an Arab perspective. I mean, you may think our opinions don't matter, something within the community, but once I get to what I want to say and the controversial part of this video, you'll understand why I'm saying this, and I'm going to explain to you how I got there as well. So I'm not going to post the clip of what they said, first of all because editing that in is too much effort and this stuff takes up too much of my time anyway, and I need to spend more of that time looking for a job. And the other reason I'm not going to post it in is because what Pfizer of, the Kylie Jenner lookalike are, what Pfizer said was incredibly racist and offensive, so it's best that I just keep that out of my channel. I think there's enough negativity to go around without adding some racial slurs to the mix. But yeah, a video of Pfizer sending a racist voice message on Snapchat to a Pakistani woman back in the UK circulated because she used very offensive language. You said some very insane things about what people from Pakistan do. And she said, I only speak Arabic and English, and the way they sort of got famous, I think this was back in 2015. I don't know. I don't think I'd known who they were before 2018, and I just unfollowed them a few days ago. And not that they were coming up in my Instagram feed anyway that much, but they got famous because they looked like Kim Kardashian, Sonia, and Kylie Jenner, Pfizer. So that's how they got famous. They built an Instagram following from it. They moved to Dubai. They both like very lavish lifestyle with designer clothing, and they have those partnerships with them, so they make a lot of money off of that, and they continue to live their lavish lifestyle. And I think that's got into their heads because money corrupts the soul, it corrupts the mind, it corrupts the heart. And one way we've seen this now is just like the level of internalized racism held by them, and to do with the money and to do with the whole fantasy of Arab living. They're living that dream, what is a dream to so many, and it's insane how it's gotten to their heads. Like, they've supposedly even claimed to be of Turkish descent, Iraqi descent, Kuwaiti, Qatari descent, a lot of Arab, Middle Eastern descent, and sort of left behind their Pakistani heritage, even though, like, if you watch the interview from like 3 years ago, they are speaking in a very obvious Brahmi accent. It's like so Birmingham. So the fact that in this video and in Pfizer's really awful apology video, she's speaking in that whole Arab elite went to a international English language high school, and my parents are like not that strict kind of accent. Like my cousins talk like that. I talk like that to my cousins. Like I talk in this accent, and most of the international Arab students I knew talk like that كمان لأنه نحن عرب بس liberal Arab. And I think it just shows how helpful it is, like when you're that willing to disparage people of the same heritage as you and to like trying to dissociate yourself from it. That's like such an unhealthy identity crisis kind of thing going on with these two, and it's so weird and insane. I'm not going to go more into internalized racism regarding this because I think that if I stick to the topic of this regarding internalized racism, I'd have to focus mainly on the South Asian community, and I'm not South Asian, I'm Arab, I'm Lebanese, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the thing was, I really couldn't help but think, like, how and where do you become this? Where does this sense of self-hatred or hatred of your own heritage come from in such an environment where, you know, it says that they were, if you look up where they're from, it will say they're from where they came there from, which is Turkish mum, Iraqi father. But obviously there are people, including people who went to school, and saying, no, we went to school in Birmingham and they're originally from Pakistan, which is what other sources are saying anyway. So, well, this is what's like really confusing me, which is the fact that you can grow up in a predominantly South Asian area, because we know Birmingham has loads of Asians, just like, you know, Manchester or Hounslow or Ilford or wherever in London, really. So there's like a lot of space to, like, you know, cultivate a mainstream discourse for South Asians by South Asians. And, you know, and if you've grown up in a predominantly Muslim area, you'll know that the Muslim discourse or British Muslim discourse is heavily centered around South Asians, which kind of makes sense because they are some of make up the more senior people of the Muslim community, and they make up the large bulk. So I'm not arguing against that, but it still begs you to wonder where this obsession they have with the Middle East is. And the reason why I'm really fixed on that is because I think if you get, there are a lot of South Asians, Muslims in this country, and I mean like born and raised here in predominantly South Asian parts of the UK, that if you gave them the same kind of money, clout, and opportunities, I feel like they would end up like Sonia and Pfizer. And this isn't to insinuate that every South Asian Muslim secretly wants to be Arab, because that would be an outlandish and racist claim to make. But there's definitely a hyperfixation on the Arab world, and to a very unhealthy and obsessive extent that really needs to be spoken about by, and this obsession is by British-born Asian Muslims. Just to clarify, I don't mean all South Asians are like this. I don't think they're all like this. Obviously, not even the ones that are born here. I just want to say that because I don't write scripts for my videos. I just improvise them with vague plans. So I just want to get the proper meaning here with this edit. And it's driving me crazy because it just really bothers me, and I've always wanted to talk about it. And I've never, even though I've made a few tweet replies about it, I've never really spoken about it in full. And so because of like what the Waswasa can do, and like the shayateen are saying in our minds, like you can say like, oh, I'm not going in that direction, but you know, again, money corrupts the soul, the mind, and the heart. You don't know what could happen to you, and it's that and the Waswasa that could turn you into something like Pfizer and Sonia. And I'm going to elaborate more on like how this obsession manifests. Most of what I'm talking about is like online stuff, but there's also some stuff that like I've had happen with real life interactions, especially like when I went to school in a predominantly South Asian area, mixed-ish with no Arabs. I feel like we're expected to act a certain way in terms of like how religious we are and how adherent we are to the deen, and it's supposed to be like natural and to us, and it's not supposed to be hard. And I guess some people might say, oh, well, it's because the Saudi royal family claim to be the custodians to the holy land of Islam, and that means they've asserted their dominance over the Ummah and have established the pillars for Arab supremacy. To add to that, as we all know, there is a widespread racism issue in the Arab world regarding the kafala system and just poor attitudes towards people that results in bullying and other systemic and institutional forms of abuse, both in their home countries and in predominantly Arab areas outside of the Arab world. But those kind of communities don't really exist in the UK as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't excuse the really behavior that I'm seeing because we're not all related to the Saudi family, and most of us don't worship them uncritically. And so it's like when you see like anyone from the Middle East who just isn't like the most religious thing ever, it seems to be really confusing for you guys. And I'm like, but you're Arab, you like do this and that and this, and I'm gonna box you in my image, closed-minded image of you, because I can't imagine you being something that isn't a stereotype. And I'm like, and the Arab community in the UK is quite small and not very well established, so I feel like Arab Muslims are expected to like naturally be on a certain level of deen just for being Arab, and it's good to like want people to be on deen, but to expect it from them because of being a certain ethnicity is wild. And I don't know, I mean, some people might say, oh, it's because, I was treated like this by people with an Arab superiority complex when I was growing up, and they based religiousness on ethnicity. Yeah, I get that happens in like places where it is predominantly Arab, which does not apply to almost the entirety of the UK outside of Acton and Ealing. So again, it's just a lot of like crap being pulled out of people's mind, like hindquarters, and it's like we're supposed to fit into this box to like prove we're Arab to other people, and then when we're not, it's like, what kind of Arab are you? And like, nothing good came out of that. Like, okay, it is the reason I pray. Like, I always felt judged. Like, what do people think of an Arab Muslim who doesn't pray? Um, yada yada yada. And but other than that, like, it's just not cool to like do that. Like, there are people from your own community who you should focus on. Like, we should do dawah to all, but like hyperfixating on Arabs and how on deen they are is like ridiculous, especially when you're not Arab. And then like there has to be a focus on who's on deen when it comes to like your own community. Because like look at where Sonia and Faiza are. They're wearing like really revealing clothes, and like that's the kind of misguidance they've gone into. And the obsession, it kind of borders on fetishization. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Bahrain or Qatar or Saudi Arabia where there's like no kafirs, and I'm gonna move to the land of Islam." First of all, the land of Islam is Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem, nothing else, and Badr. And so, other than that, you've just got like secular, non sacred land with just a bunch of Muslims on it. And, you know, you're taking for granted for the fact that you probably already live in a predominantly Muslim area. It's just in the UK. I mean, if you want the beach and the 50-degree weather, then fine, just say that. Also, if you ever have some kind of job career opportunity come up that requires you to move to a Gulf country or an Arab country, then go ahead and take it. Don't let this video discourage you. I'm not judging you. I think that's good. Go ahead. Just lower your expectations of other people. Maybe keep your expectations on how you're treated, and obviously tell the racists to like STF you, but not everyone's gonna be like this perfect Muslim and whatnot. But if you think you're gonna like live in an area where it's like all Muslims and there's less exposure to haram, like the internet is destroying all that anyway, then it's probably not going to happen. You probably couldn't afford to live there. The culture is going to be different from you if you don't end up living with a community that's also predominantly Asian. But even then, those are people who have moved from like the countries from which you originate, so it would be a bit different, and it would be, can you really live there? And okay, yeah, it's kind of rhetorical, but just think about that, like before you all decide to go and go on an en masse exodus to Dubai and Doha and Jeddah. And this isn't to put on blast like people who actually moved to like Medina or Egypt to study Islam because they have like very high caliber Islamic studies programs. Like, Mabruk, mashallah to you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for clapping. And then there's the other issue, like when Palestine came up, and I mean, I love that we're all in it for like the Palestine Hurra, but there was this tweet, and this isn't like the only kind of it where I've seen what it's like people who think that non-Muslims who are from Arab countries are like less in your eyes, and you're not even like subtle about it. You're so open about it. Like this specific tweet was like, a non-Arab Muslim has more rights to live in Palestine than an Arab Muslim, and I'm guessing if they meant like the holiness of it, then they were probably referring to like Jerusalem just, and not the entirety of Palestine. But like, where do you get this from? Like, you have more rights to live in Palestine. Go to Palestine then. Tend to the land. Tend to the farms. In place of the people who are native to the culture, where a lot of it is based around like attachment to the land and farming and agriculture. It's not happening. Yeah, you really are gonna like mass exodus move to Palestine like the next do another Nakba. And I know people are gonna go in the comment section and be like, okay, you're so racist, and like, who are you to talk anyway? It's not like people wanna associate with you. You're from Lebanon, because Lebanon's always the butt of the Muslim twist jokes where the filthy degenerates, misguided people. Even SoniaxFyza didn't want to pretend to be Lebanese. Like, ouch. Actually, no, I may have dodged with it. But 9 times out of 10, you have a book that was printed in Beirut, so don't make us the butt of your jokes. Because if I see another like Lebanese people are degenerates and like other jokes, like kind of jokes like that Bosnian girl that tried to throw shade at us, and Arab diaspora Twitter called her out rightfully because she's full of hot air, I'm gonna like have a conniption. Okay, I kind of get where it comes from. Maybe we're responsible for it because the loudest parts of the diaspora and home population portray us in a very limited and boxed way. But like, it's not that funny or like beneficial to the Ummah to like constantly throw us under the bus. Like, Islam does exist in Lebanon. We're real people. We want to just be, just what I really want is to just not be boxed into this box because I'm Arab, or this box because I'm Lebanese, or whatever. I just want to, like, be able to exist, and it's easy to stereotype people and have expectations of them, and it's also easy to sit there and complain about my own experiences. I'm not gonna, like, give put as much weight on this as, like, anyone who's, like, bore the brunt of Arab supremacy, whether it's just bullying in, like, some Western Muslim school in North America or the kafala system. Like, obviously that needs condemnation. It's so wrong, but it doesn't. It's just such a ridiculous hyperfixation of a certain type group of South Asians, the ones that are born and raised in England in predominantly South Asian Muslim areas. I specifically mean those kinds because when I moved out for university, a lot of the South Asian Muslims that I befriended were international students who were born and raised in their countries. So a lot of them had a very different approach to Lebanon. They were a bit more open minded, and they were aware that they were going to meet new people and not going to measure me up against a set of stereotypes that have this hyperfixation on the Arab world, and it's like we can guide our own people to the deen. We don't need you to guide us. We should guide everyone regardless of the ethnicity. Like I've seen like diaspora Pakistanis complain about Pakistanis back home from being not on deen enough. Like, okay, then go guide them towards the deen, help them practice. Why are you so focused on us? It's crazy. I know I've gone off the topic of the whole SoniaxFyza thing, but that's where my train of thought went. I had to get this off my chest because it's been bothering me for ages. I have nothing against the South Asian community. I'm being honest. It's just this one thing I need to get off my chest. I also just want to say that it's not about respecting Arabs, but also respect for yourself and your community and your culture and heritage. Islam transcends culture and ethnicity, and it's a very universal thing. And it's important to remember the roots of the Muslim community being laid down by South Asian immigrants, and the hyperfixation on the Arab world that I'm talking about sort of distracts you from that, and it kind of shows a lack of self-respect, in my opinion. You're so, mashallah, politically organized and socially organized, alhamdulillah, and but sometimes it feels a bit hostile, and I don't talk to people that much anyway, as like strangers, and it seems wild to say something because of how big the Arab supremacy problem is, like, globally, but we really are a minority in the UK, and there's really not much of an Arab supremacy problem here. It's like the UK Muslim discourse can feel a bit exclusionary sometimes if you're not South Asian, and sometimes I wish people recognise that, and that's what I think about the whole situation. It could start with something small, and then you become another SoniaxFyza. So if you like this video, you probably didn't. Give it a like, share, and subscribe, and leave a nice comment. And links to my social media are in the description box below. This is Crispy Kareem, and goodbye.